For people my age, shooting drills in schools have become so commonplace and normalized that for the most part our generation has become desensitized to gun violence. So why is it that nobody seems to care about the lives lost, or at least enough to make any substantial changes? This question has been posed by X Gonzalez, who is a notable political activist. They are non-binary and go by they/them pronouns. They focus on gun violence and the gun lobbying of political figures. They are also a survivor of the Parkland school shooting, which is why this is so important to them. This is also known as the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting of 2018 that occurred in Parkland, Florida. And according to an article by History.com, 17 people were killed and 17 others were injured, most of which were students under the age of 18, and everyone in the community was affected by this in some way. Nicholas Cruz, who is an expelled student, was the shooter who had legally purchased the weapons used in the tragic event. In the aftermath of the event, politicians ignored pushes for gun legislation, instead offering their thoughts and prayers and arguing that the bigger issue was that Cruz was suffering from mental health issues. In a powerful speech given by Gonzalez, they state that, quote, "This is not just a mental health issue. He would not have harmed that many students with a knife," end quote. Instead, Gonzalez says that we should focus on how fault lies with each and every single individual who let Cruz get away with gun ownership despite knowing how he had expressed homicidal tendencies. In this speech, it is obvious that Gonzalez is frustrated and angry, and they use their emotions to empower their listeners to realize that this is not just a Parkland problem or a Florida problem, but that this affects all of us as Americans. I highly recommend watching this speech, and I will be putting a link to the CNN article in the comments. And if we continue to disregard the work that activists such as Gonzalez do, all we should expect is more injuries and deaths of our youth, and a continued feeling of hatred towards the American ideals that should make people proud. Unfortunately, Gonzalez highlights that all too many politicians are money-driven and only direct policies because of lobbying, such as that done by the National Rifle Association. BrightSource.com explains why Gonzalez feels frustrated by these politicians. I believe it's even worse that politicians are only taking sides because of their own personal gain, the money that they receive for pushing for gun control, but not because they genuinely believe in gun control or Second Amendment rights. Gonzalez, as a queer youth who has suffered such extremely traumatic experiences, they have led students and formed organizations dedicated to changing the laws to modern-day gun law standards. They inspire many other young people to use our voices and realize that all of us can and should make a difference. That since 1788, when the Second Amendment was ratified, guns made now are so much more deadly, to the point that laws really need to reflect that. So I ask of you to place yourself in their shoes, the shoes of Gonzalez and the survivors of gun violence, to see how they must feel. Thank you.